if you are familiar with what we used to call Social Media Monday, these digital webinars are a way for us to incorporate social media into the everyday practices for VISTAS. And in these webinars, what we're trying to do is give you the opportunity to hear from technology experts and see how you can apply those skills into the everyday role that you have as a VISTA member. So you have already heard me. I'm Tracy Johnson. I am AmeriCorps VISTA Marketing and Outreach Specialist here with the corporation. And you'll hear some other voices throughout the day that will be working with me to assist you in getting your questions answered, helping you with sharing resources, and just making sure that this is a session that helps you fulfill your role and gets you the answers that you need. So you'll hear Danielle, Robin, and Suzanne. So this is what we're going to go over today, just a brief overview. Number one, what is social? What's this social media thing? Everyone talks about it, but really what is it? How can you use it most effectively? What are some steps to get you started right away? So you know what it is, you know what's best practices, but you need some things, some concrete examples of what you can do after this presentation. Then we'll have some VISTA case studies where we'll really get to see those next steps put into perspective, and of course give you opportunity for your questions and answers.
In fact, I just wrote in that
All right, without further ado, I want to introduce everyone to today's presenter, Mr. Ron Cates. Ron, take it away.
Hi, my name is Ron Cates. I'm the Director of Digital Marketing for Constant Contact. Now, I do need to let the organizers know that my screen just went away. I'm back, thank you. I work for Constant Contact. They're the world's largest supplier of digital marketing tools to small businesses and organizations and nonprofits. Email marketing tools, social media tools, etc. I function as their digital marketing expert, so I fly around the world and I do seminars on email marketing, social media. What a lot of you don't know, though, and this is probably most important, is that I am the guy that invented social media way back in 1964. I was tweeting on paper way before Al Gore invented the internet, before there was Wi-Fi, etc. Let's get started. I want to give you an overview of social. You know, what is social? Today, very few of us trust advertisements. Instead, we trust an online recommendation, even from strangers. So 78% of us trust an online recommendation, only 14% trust traditional advertising. So marketing has definitely changed. Word of mouth is now on steroids. I look at social this way. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. By the way, special shout out to everybody from Florida. That's where I grew up. I see a bunch of you from Florida on here and a couple from Arizona. Today I'm in Toronto, Canada, so I do get around a bit. Where I live in Phoenix, Arizona, I have a favorite grocery store. It's called Safeway. Now, you may or may not have a Safeway in your market, but that's okay. It's a grocery store. And I'm a big fan of Safeway. And the reason I'm a big fan is they're close to my house. They have a lot of stuff. The prices are decent. It's clean. The people are friendly. And Safeway actually invests a lot of time, money, and resources into creating that impression and to turning me into a fan. Everyone on this call, and I love the work that you do, you've created a lot of fans in the community for both you and for your organization. So we've worked hard to create these fans. Now what? The most that Safeway could have hoped for 10 years ago is that I love them so much I'd go in on my day off and stock their shelves for free. That's probably not going to happen. So the reality is I probably wasn't going to do anything. So between doing nothing and doing something that extreme, there wasn't anything in the middle. But today there is. There's social media. The most they could hope for 10 years ago was that I would be at a party. And I go to super dull parties. So maybe there's a circle of people talking about grocery stores, and I go up to them and I talk to them about how much I love Safeway. And what are the chances of that happening? And how many people can I impact? Social media is that cocktail party circle on steroids. The viability is unlike anything we've ever seen in history before. It's times millions. So where you've created all these great fans, they want to become advocates on your behalf. Social's how they do it. That's how you empower them to do it. And people trust them more than anyone else. I mean, think about who's your very best prospect to become a volunteer or a donor. It's someone like your current volunteer or donor. And who do they hang out with? People like them. So with social media, on the average, we have 244 friends on Facebook. As they talk about your organization on Facebook or Twitter, 83% trust an online recommendation from someone in their network. This has incredibly huge power. bigger than anything we've ever seen before. It's about getting your advocates to talk about you on your behalf and to spread the word. When it comes to raising funds, you have to raise awareness first. This is how we do it today. It's become a primary form of communication. Like, I don't know how many of you on the phone have an iPhone. I happen to have one, so I'm not picking on you. But if I could see you live and I'd asked you, well, why'd you get your iPhone? Is it because of the fantastic call quality? The answer is no, because it's not in the top 10 phones on call quality. You got it because the price was so cheap for the phone. That's not true either. It's $550 off contract for the cheapest 5C. So maybe it's because the data plan was so affordable. Oh, well, that's $200 a month. So that's not true either. This is pretty profound. We're now choosing our phone, our primary communication tool, not based on how well you can speak on it, how well you can do a phone call on it, but on how well it does social and email and other forms of social media. That's a profound difference in communication. This has become the trusted and preferred method of communication in the United States and around the world. Here I am tweeting. Back in 1964, I figured you might want some photographic evidence. OMG, rode my bike today without training wheels. I invented that OMG thing too. Right, this is really me in 1964. I look at myself and I go, wow, he was so serious. That's either a future serial killer or social media guy. Aren't you glad it turned out this way? Yes. I would love for you to follow me on Twitter. My handle is my name, Ron Cates, RONCATES. Now, I'm going to make a best practice recommendation for you. If you only do one thing after this webinar, I want you to do this thing. Go out and sign up for any social media platform you've heard of for your organization. Even if you're not sure if they're going to use it today, maybe it'll become important in a few years. So if it's one you've heard of, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, grab your organization's name for them before it's taken by someone else. Now, how many of you tried to register a .com in the last 5 years? It's become almost impossible because every phrase and word is taken. Don't let that happen to you or to your organization. Grab them today and at least create the account. They're all free. And then later, if you need to use it, you own the organization name. That's important. I'm sensitive to this because I learned it the hard way. I have to use my real name, Ron Cates. I wanted to use my street name, the name everybody knows me by. But Gangsta 666 is already taken, so I had to settle for this one instead. Here's why you're not doing social. And by the way, real important point. We're talking about social media marketing. Now, I love social media. You know, I put some videos up of me doing stand-up, and I've got a picture of my dog, and I just connected with someone from college, and that's a really long time ago. But we're talking about social media marketing. So how to use this to move the dial for your organization, for your cause, the thing that you're so passionate for. How can we harness social media to help you? Here are the concerns that usually get in your way. I'm going to dismantle all of them. First, this looks really interesting, but we're not going to have 1 million fans. And obviously, you must have huge numbers to have impact. True? No, it really isn't. It's more about engagement. These are all engagement tools. It's a whole spectrum of engagement. At one end of the spectrum is Twitter, 140 characters or less. That's micro engagement, so we have to do it a lot more often. Opposite end is my blog or my website. I put a big article up there. It takes a longer time to create. When my visitors read it, it takes them longer time, much more engagement, but that means I can't do it as often. In the middle, there's email, there's Facebook. So people today communicate in a lot of different ways. You know, I didn't grow up on Twitter. It didn't exist. But, you know, some people are on Twitter, some are on Facebook, and you gotta communicate in a style that your recipients like, that your audience likes, not what you grew up on. So even if Twitter isn't your favorite tool, I think we need to have a presence there. Now, it's not about pure numbers. I mean, it helps to be an insane celebrity like Charlie Sheen. He got more than 3 million Twitter followers within 48 hours of creating his account. But it's not about that. It's not a numbers game. It's about engagement. Let's say, for example, one of you doesn't have a Twitter account for your organization, and you create it tonight. And by tomorrow, you only have 1 follower, just 1. Pretty pointless, right? Well, wait a minute. What if that 1 follower is me? And you post something to Twitter, and I like it. It takes me less than a second. I click on a button, and I retweet that to my followers, and they get to see your message. Now, I've got a pretty good number of followers, but some of my followers really have a lot of followers, so the virability of this is crazy. A year ago, I only had about 1,500 Twitter followers. I really don't push it much, but I had more than 5 million Twitter mentions of my name. So the virability of this is insane. It's almost incalculably high. Don't worry so much about the numbers. 2, This sounds really great, but I don't know what to say on social media. Most of us didn't get into our organization or behind the cause because we love to write. In fact, most of us don't love to write. So the reality is, here's some good news for you. Social's not about being perfect, and two, more than half the content on social is stuff that you found and shared. It's not original content. Social's about being real, transparent, a real human being. So even if you're representing the organization, I should feel like there's a human being at the end of it. If your organization was one single living, breathing human being, what language would it use? What words would it use? That's how we communicate via social. Email, by the way, is the original form of social. We don't take our print copy marketing stuff and copy paste it into an email or into a social post or onto Facebook. Whole different form of communication. And we have social forgiveness. The same way we have forgiveness when it comes to texting. You know, I'm driving home and I get a text that says, hey, pick up some hairy frogs on the way home. I mean, I know that either Siri messed up or autocorrect messed up. So we have digital forgiveness. We know you're going to make a mistake on occasion because you're human. That's okay. Justin Bieber has way more Twitter followers than I will ever have. He's usually number 1 or number 2 on Twitter. And there are 2 things conspicuously absent from every post of his: grammar, punctuation, yo. So it's not about being perfect. It's about being real and authentic. I'm a really good writer, but I'm also a perfectionist. So I will struggle, and at the end of the month, I don't even have a paragraph done because I'm worried about every word and phrase. That's not what social is about. It's about being perfection is the bane of social. This sounds useful, but I'm never going to have time to do it. How about 10 or 15 minutes, 2 or 3 days a week? I think you've got time to do that, and you can have huge impact on social with a very small amount of time investment. Sometimes just a photo. I mean, one of the best posts I ever saw, one of the most effective posts I've seen, is from a small farmer's market in New England. Here's the post. It's 2 a.m. Do you know where your fruit is? That takes about 6 seconds to type. And when you say, well, who cares? Within minutes, there were posts and comments and likes. And within a week, there were more than 500 comments. Now, as you scroll through those comments, you learn a lot about your organization, or in this case, about the business. God, I love the fresh peaches. I wish they had watermelon. Parking's a real pain on Saturday. So as you scroll through these comments, you learn a lot about your stakeholders and about your prospects and your potential donors, potential volunteers. So the very best content should pass a couple tests. 1, are they going to want to share this with their friends? And 2, will it incite them to comment? If you post something that incites commentary, they're now creating your content for you. It's almost like Tom Sawyer getting his friends to wash the fence for him. That's the idea. I hear about new tools and networks every day, but I can't stay current. Should I be on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter? What about MySpace? That was really huge like 8 years ago. There's 3 or 4 people there now. There are more than 1,000 social media platforms today. So there's a bunch you've never heard of. And you cannot be an expert on all of them. You're not going to be able to use all of them. You pick 1 or 2 that you like, and you do those well. You know, I'm going to suggest later that you start with Facebook because it's the biggest. It has more than 1 billion users. And if you have some sort of social presence, then your followers can let you know about anything new you're missing out on. That can't happen if you have 0 social presence. I mean, I will bet you real money that 5 years from today, there's going to be a new platform that's bigger than Facebook, and it hasn't even been thought of yet. So should we just wait for that one? I mean, no, of course not. That's like saying, I'm not going to buy a laptop today because there's going to be a better one in 6 months that's faster and cheaper. There will be. There's always going to be something better down the block, down the pike. So use what's out there today and do it well. Worry about what's coming out tomorrow. The top networks. As far as impact and reach, and of course this varies, but I tried to pick the top 3 that would have the most impact for your type of organizations. And I picked Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. That doesn't mean I'm devaluing the others. I know that you only have so much time, energy, and resources to commit, so we're going to focus on these. But I think as we go through them, you're going to learn how to market using a social platform, regardless of the platform. So even if something brand new is created 2 years from now, you're going to have a really good idea how to use it. Content ideas. What's new at the organization? You know, what's going on? What do we accomplish today? You know, what did you do recently to help someone achieve success? And this could be written text, it could be a post, it could be a video, it could be a photograph. You know, if it's Habitat for Humanity and we just finished a house, what a great photo to post on Facebook or Twitter, or maybe a 30-second video. Or just any time you can capture real, true enthusiasm, that's what works on social. I mean, if you had a business, I have a friend who has a business in San Diego. It's a hobby store. He sells radio-controlled airplanes and boats and cars, and he has a staff of 9. I've never been able to visit the store, but I know he has 9 people. I called him up and I said, look, I will bet you that when the UPS person brings in the new super cool thing, your staff, they fight over each other to be the first to unbox it. Am I right? He said, oh, absolutely. That happens almost every day. I said, so what would have bigger impact? You could hire a videographer to do an infomercial and spend 30 grand, put it on Facebook, or you could pull out your smartphone and record that 30 seconds of real unbridled enthusiasm. That's going to have way more impact. You know, so the people that you touch, the people you affect, them talking, seeing them, the photos, that's going to have tremendous impact on social. And lastly, what advice have people been asking you for lately? You're asked the same questions every single day, over and over and over. It's not because the people asking aren't smart. It's because you've become an expert. You have developed some true expertise because of your role as a volunteer. So show off some of that expertise. You know, don't be afraid to talk about the things that you've learned and share those. That's content that people are incredibly interested in. Let's talk about Facebook first. It is the biggest platform on earth, more than 1 billion users. That's with a B. So if I was going to start somewhere, that's where I'm going to start. Primary audience is everybody on earth. They're looking for useful, interesting, informative content, you know, something that's going to get their attention. They need to engage with it to even see your content, because now that Facebook has an algorithm, they send more of your content to people that engage with you more often. And it's best for sharing text, photos, videos, and it's great for reaching a large audience. We're not going to do it quite as often as some other social platforms, and we're going to be more cautious about not overdoing it. One of the top reasons people will stop following you on Facebook is over-communication from you. It's excellent for nonprofits, stakeholders, community members. This is the primary social network. Now, we are seeing huge growth in niche sites, niche social networks. I didn't know this a few years ago, but I know it for sure now. There's a social network for nuns that's way more important to them than Facebook is. There's one for pet owners that's growing. I created one just for fun, my super geeky self, just to do the coding. I created a social network for stand-up comics last year called Stand Up Share. With 0 promotion, it has more than 60,000 active members already. So we're seeing huge growth in all kinds of sites. The top place to be is Facebook. And if you're on Facebook, your followers will let you know if there's something new and neat and you need to be there. Facebook content, it's lower volume but really high value. These are huge networks that get shared. I'm going to suggest that you post at least 3 times a week, but not more than 10 times per week. Over-communication is the top reason they stop following you. And it's about quality versus quantity, obviously. So these are those aha moments, those really neat accomplishments. A prospective donor wants to know, most importantly, you know, what does their dollar accomplish? So by showing off the accomplishments, you gain a lot of impact. Now, I am having that internet problem that I spoke about earlier. If you give me just a moment, I will restore things. Sorry for the technical problem. I'm going to log back in.
While Ron is logging back in, I also wanted to let you know that you can connect with AmeriCorps VISTA on Facebook at facebook.com/AmeriCorps VISTA.
Thanks, everyone. Sorry for that. So I'm entering, for the organizers, I'm entering the room again as a guest. My name is Ron, and if you can switch it over to me, that'd be fantastic. And for all the listeners, I apologize. Technology does let us down on rare occasion. But now we're back up and running that quickly. So thank you, everyone, for being so patient. Facebook content, low volume, high value, 3 times a week, no more than 10. And it's about quality versus quantity. Best practices. I like the 50-30-20 rule, and this applies to almost every major social network. 50% of the time, I'm trying to get likes, shares, and comments. I'm trying to incite people to comment. I want to make sure they're going to share this with their friends. So I'm going to entertain, invite conversation. I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to incite them to comment or ask something provocative. I'm going to share images and videos. 30% of the time, this is pure organizational information, hints and tips, content that I found and shared. In other words, that I've curated. I find great content. Now, let me give you an example of that. I love digital marketing. And every day, I almost hate to admit this because it's so geeky, but there are 23 blogs that I scan every day, often multiple times per day, about social media marketing, about digital marketing. Now, you would like to know a lot about everything going on in the world of social media marketing, but you need to know more about what's going on in your world, so that's where you spend your time. So with me, when I find something I think is really important to my audience of organizations, small business, nonprofits, I just hit a button and I repost that content. I retweet it or post it to Facebook. So I know there's a lot of things that you're looking at online that have to do with your passion, what you're excited about. Hit a button every once in a while and share that content to your audience. That's curated content. And then 20% of the time, this is really about your organization. And it's a call to action. It's not purely promotional. It's not, join right now. But it can definitely be, hey, for more information, or we're having an organizational meeting, or, come have a meet up with us, or we have a live event we'd like you to attend. That's where you have a little bit more of an ask, but not a blatant join now, just like a blatant buy now wouldn't work for business. This is about engaging, being real, authentic, and showing that there's a real person here. The different types of content. Text updates, that could be a fill in the blank. Those are really easy to do. There's also just ask a question, and force people to comment because they're gonna want to answer the question. Or a fun factor tip to share. So the fun factor tips, that's great on a Monday. People are headed to work, they're in a big hurry, they're not gonna have huge engagement with you. So maybe it's a great time for a fact or a tip is on Monday. Or during the rest of the week, it can be a bit more involved. Think about your audience the same way you think about yourself and how you view things that you receive in your inbox and on your social networks. What do you respond to? They'll respond to the same sort of content. And people definitely engage with personal content. I want to know that there's a real human being here somewhere. I mean, it's almost ironic, but because social media is digital, but the power of it is a direct reflection on our digital age. We don't know our neighbors' names anymore. We buy from the cloud. Digital entities arrive into our inbox. Well, we want to connect with a real person, but we're not willing to get rid of our iPads or our laptops. Today, hitting the Facebook like button is true, measurable, powerful engagement. When someone hits the Facebook like button and becomes your fan, they're 91% more likely to take action with you again. They're 93% more likely to refer you to their network and to their friends. Huge power. So visual has huge power to it. That's just photos, videos. Videos work on almost every network, including Twitter. And digital content. This could be a downloadable guide or an ebook that you want to share about the project that you're working on to give people that are really interested in more detailed information. Now, rather than this all happen haphazardly, I do suggest you make kind of a rough calendar. So maybe it's Friday. You take time to think about the next week, and you leave a couple posts open. So what you don't want to do is, at the last second, oh my gosh, I haven't thought of anything. Let's try to have sort of a plan to this. And the neat thing is there are tools out there that are free that allow you to set this up in advance. And I'll mention one. There are several. One is called Hootsuite. That's Hootsuite, Hootsuite.com. They have a free version and a paid-for version and a nonprofit discounted version. And they allow you, even in the free version, to monitor all of your social media activity on one page. Instead of having to log into every platform separately, it's all in one spot. It also allows you to create posts to networks that go out anytime in the future. So I could actually go in there Friday night. Instead of having all my posts going out Friday night, I could say, I want this one going to Twitter and LinkedIn on this day. And I want this one going just to Twitter on Thursday at 5:30 p.m. And I want this one just going to Facebook. I love this feature. I'm 55. I've got 3 kids out of college, and I have posts going out to them on Twitter 50 years from now just to scare them. I'm still watching you. I'm really disappointed. I think I'm safe. All right, not really. I know if you saw my picture, you think that's totally unbelievable, but it's true. I really am over 50. Be flexible. Always leave posts open for spontaneous things that happen during the week. What are you going to do next? Let's be very prescriptive. Try one of those posts. Just do this. You can't break it. Try a fill-in-the-blank or a question post, something that's going to incite action and engagement. Create and share some visual content. You all have that, or that could be video. It could be a photo. I mean, think about it. 1 second, click post. 1 second to take a photo that can be incredibly provocative. That same farmer's market I told you about earlier, another one of their posts, they took a picture of a watermelon cut in half. I mean, that's literally click, 1 second post, 1 second of time. And within a week, there were more than 500 comments and more than 500 likes. It was almost like a Rorschach test of the audience. You know, people were talking about what this reminded them of. And usually it was something great like, this brings back memories of summer, some of it a little bit frightening. And third, monitor your page. Is your content engaging? Are people commenting on it? Are they liking it? You know, make this a two-way street, not just one way. So when they comment back on occasion. And when it comes to time, you know, trying to manage all this and look at your penetration and your results, you can scan this in seconds. So this doesn't have to be a huge time sink. Monitoring social takes up much more time than posting to social or coming up with content. But free tools like Hootsuite allow you to do it in seconds. How about Twitter? It's my favorite. It's not the biggest social platform, but it is my favorite. It's micro-engagement. It's 140 characters or less. It's mostly young adults, prime for volunteerism. They're looking for news, updates about what's going on with the organization, trends. It's great for sharing news, original and curated content. You know, something you have found that you want to share later, it's really easy to put that link right into Twitter. And who's there? Nonprofits are there in a big way. It's excellent for fundraisers. Businesses are there. All the important stakeholders are on Twitter. Twitter content. This is much higher volume because it is micro-engagement. It has lower value. So you're going to have to do it a lot more often. The minimum is 5 times a day. Now, the ideal, most engaged tweet is 100 characters. So coming up with 100 characters 5 times a day isn't that difficult. And it's about connecting with a real human being. So let them know what's going on in your day, what exciting things happened at the organization, the things that you accomplished. Maximum, none. And we've even seen businesses and nonprofits get incredible engagement at 40 posts a day. So there's no limit, but I am going to recommend at least 5 times a day. Quantity is the key here. Doesn't have to be high quality, but high quantity. Again, I'm just trying to remind them that we exist. So even people that have an experience with your organization and you knock their socks off, we get 6,000 marketing impressions per day per person in the United States on the average, 6,000. So we could love you, but we forget about you because we get distracted. I mean, how many have a restaurant that you really love and you just forget to go there sometimes? And if you got an email from them or a tweet from them or a Facebook post on occasion from them, it would remind you. You would salivate for that chicken sandwich and drive over and buy it. Staying top of mind is incredibly important, especially when you're doing the good work that you're doing. Even though it's great work, people get distracted because there are so many impressions out there today. Best practices for content. Create versus curate. Create is, that's when you create it on your own, original content. Curate is stuff that you found and shared. And again, more than half the content on social is stuff that you found and shared. You almost become the expert by becoming the arbitrator of what your stakeholders should be reading. You found it for them. You've elevated yourself and shown off your expertise by finding their content. You know, so create would be a blog post that you share or a short tweet or a Facebook post. Curate, these are the links that you're going to share that you found, you think are important to your audience, and you share them on Twitter or Facebook. Retweets. When you're following someone and they tweet something that's really interesting to you and you think would be interesting to your audience, retweet it. You know, actually just take their post and share it to everybody in your network. That's sharing the love. It also makes it more likely they're going to repost what you post. And lastly, hashtags. Let me explain hashtags. The hashtag or the pound sign, that's to show what topic we're talking about. That's so people can find topics of interest to them. So think about it. You know, a few years ago, there was a hit TV show called Lost. And right away on Twitter, you know, hashtag Lost was about the TV show. And that means that it's different. When people want to find the TV show Lost, they would do hashtag Lost. Very different than I lost my kitten or I lost my way. You know, those became whole different hashtags. So it's a really good way to monitor your organization or project that you're working on is create a hashtag just about that specific topic. People can find you more easily and talk about you more readily that way. Text updates you can post with a link. So on any social platform, including Twitter, you can post and it can have a link that they can actually click on and go right to it. And most of the tools like Hootsuite, if the link you want to use is really, really long, it'll shorten it automatically for you, so you can get into that 140 characters or less easier. Statistics, facts, or tips, or quotes, motivational quotes, or something from somebody that you just served. They just had a great experience because of what you provided. They have a quote that talks about the organization in a good way. Definitely feel free to share those. What are you going to do next? You're going to tweet at least 5 times a day. You're going to share curated content. You're going to find some things that you want to share with people, and you're going to retweet something that somebody posts, or you're going to thank somebody for following you. So just 3 steps for Twitter, just like I had 3 steps for Facebook. Let's talk about LinkedIn. A bit more a professional network, business, thought leadership, but it's a great stronghold for nonprofits. It's a great way to get connected with business leaders, to let them know what your organization is accomplishing, what you're doing, what you're up to, and to get their support. It's also a great foot in the door. If there's someone that you just really want to meet and you've got no connection, I guarantee that you know someone who knows someone who knows someone on LinkedIn who knows them, and they can provide a direct connection for you, or you connect directly with them through LinkedIn and introduce yourself and your organization. They're looking for, this is more thought leadership tips, solutions, articles about what the organization is accomplishing or about the problem you're trying to solve. And it's best for sharing thought leadership. It's showing off your expertise. It's showing off what you're accomplishing. It's used by nonprofits and businesses, has huge impact when used the right way, particularly when it comes to connecting with somebody important that you could not connect to otherwise. LinkedIn content. It's lower volume, so you don't have to do it as often. It's real high value. I'm going to say twice a week would be the minimum. Maximum, no more than 5 times per week. And it's a bit more formal and technical. So this isn't going to be as colloquial as, say, a Twitter post, 140 characters or less. This can be a little bit more refined and a little bit more professional. The content types about you and your organization, what you're doing today. Behind the scenes, here's what really happened is we're trying to build this house or work with this group of people, or here's an interview with one of the people that's being impacted. Or recruiting, just pure recruiting. Hey, we have an opportunity for you to volunteer, for you to come help us out, for you to be a part of this incredible cause. This is a really good place to do it. That's what LinkedIn is about. It's both for job hunting and for volunteering. Content types, useful information. This could be things that you've already posted on your blog or website, and you can share it on LinkedIn. It could be a guide or an electronic book, a downloadable book about your organization or the cause or the mission. And it could be organizational news. What are you going to do next in LinkedIn? Fill out everything on your page. Actually go create your LinkedIn profile, fill out everything for your organization, and create an organizational page. Fill out every detail. Because when people go look at it, if something's missing, it looks a bit amateurish. And today, the bar has really been raised by consumers. We expect everything to look great. And if it's missing a piece or if it looks kind of amateurish, we assume that the organization maybe is kind of second-rate as well. Frank Borman, when he was head of Eastern Airlines, used to say, we clean our dining trays meticulously because if we don't, people think we don't maintain the engines well. So this is your appearance to the public. It has to look really good. That's like, for example, with email. You really just can't use Outlook anymore to do a broadcast email message. You need to use a service. So you have these nice-looking HTML templates that look more professional. They're branded with your logo and your colors. And it's not just, oh, it looks prettier. Those get up to 8 times the action over a plain text email. So people today definitely expect it to look good. The bar has been raised a lot. Be active. Post at least twice per week. And try sharing something about your organization. So those are my 3 starting points for you for LinkedIn. Overall, I want you to start out with Facebook. I want you to create your page for your organization if it doesn't have one, or update it if it does. A profile is for your personal feed, your friends, your family. The page is for the organization to interact with the public. If you're not sure how to create it, here's the URL, facebook.com/pages-create. Or you can simply click on the help button, or you can even call Constant Contact. We'll give you a coach and we'll help you set this up. Fill out every bit of information, add your logo for your organization, a neat cover photo, and then tell people you're there. So that means that, if you do email right now, because we're so comfortable with that, make sure they know that you've gone social. Make sure they know your Facebook address, your page address, how to follow you on Twitter. If you do an email, you can actually put the icons for those organizations, for those platforms, right into your email. Hey, follow us on Twitter. We've gone social. Follow us on Facebook. And if you're using a service, we track those links so we can let you know how many people clicked on something. We can see if you're getting more traction on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or somewhere else. Another really neat thing is today, people can actually share the email they receive on their social network. We have a really neat tool called Social Share. And so when someone receives your email newsletter, they can click on a button at the top. They can like your newsletter on Facebook, share it on Facebook or Twitter or any major social platform. We know that return on investment on email is incredibly high, but we're seeing up to 60% increase in reach through social networks by people being able to share the email that way as well. So all your email, we'll talk about social. In the office, it could be a poster on the wall. Here's our Facebook page. Please like us. It could be, if part of the organization includes a retail section, it could be on the receipt. It could be at the end of the recording I get when I call. Hey, we're going to be here Monday through Friday in the office from 9 to 5. If you want to follow us on Twitter, here's our handle. Anywhere you connect with people, your website, every page in a prominent location, not just the home page, because today with Google and Bing, people don't come to your home pages often. It's less than 50% of the time. So I want to make this real easy to find every page, prominent location, all my social links. Anytime you do an event, show off all your social links, let them know where you are and how to find you, even your business cards. And then start posting. Post something. You can't break it. Hey, I'm posting to Twitter because Ron Kate said to. Use that 50-30-20 rule. Use those 3 questions I gave you. Ask your audience what they're most interested in. There's your great first post. What content would you be most interested in? And here's a week of Facebook posts. Monday's probably just a motivational quote. They're not going to interact too much on Monday. Maybe Tuesday's a did you know or some tips to share. Wednesday, you decide what happens during the week that's going to be prominent for that week. Thursday could be a bit more promotional. We're having a special event. Come by and visit us. And Friday could be a fun fact. So plan this out in the week and then give yourself a little bit of reward at the end, a bit of a celebration. At Constant Contact, we will give all of you a free trial if you want to use any of our tools. They're easy to use. They're incredibly affordable. Email marketing starts at less than $20 a month. But you can try all of our things for free. You don't even need a credit card. You don't have to quit or cancel or you get billed. It just goes away if you don't love it, but you will. More importantly, we'll give a coach to all of you. When you call up, say, Ron Kate said I could have a coach, and we'll give you a marketing coach for free. Now, up next, we've got Danielle.
Thanks.
Oh, we have Megan. My bad.
No,
Please welcome Megan Henry. I got confused.
It's me, Ron. Thank you. It's Danielle, everybody. Thanks so much. I've been watching the chat, and I've been watching your comments on Twitter. And thanks so much for your participation for everyone who's on the call. So what we wanted to do is introduce to you 2 VISTAs. One up first is going to be Megan Henry. And we're hoping that they have some specific questions that you all on the call or you all on Twitter or listening to this have as well. So Megan, just for right now, introduce yourself and let everybody know where you're serving.
Hi, my name is Megan Henry, and I'm the Marketing and Public Relations VISTA at Connections to Success in Kansas City, Missouri.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And Rod shared a great deal of information on Facebook and Twitter content, sharing and engagement, which I know is one of your challenges. So let's get specific. What are the challenges you're facing using social media to recruit volunteers and donors? Because that's what this particular webinar is about, and I know that that's one of your challenges. So talk to us about that a little bit.
Right. So one of my biggest challenges is reaching out to new donors and new supporters and new volunteers. We have a lot of activity on our page with those who are already active on our board or already coming in and volunteering or already giving their in-kind or financial donations. I'm just looking for ways to get our name more out there through social media and then having that reflect on our pages.
So let me see if I understand you correctly. You're getting engagement by the people who are already in your circles, in your social circles. But what you're looking for is how do you get people involved who may not know about the organization on the local level so that you can increase your donors and your volunteers. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, Ron, what advice do you have for her?
One more time, I was on mute.
What advice do you have for Megan? What she's saying is they have engagement. It's a small group of people that are engaging on her Twitter and her Facebook page, and she's trying to reach a larger audience so that she can get more donors and more volunteers. But focusing more on local, how does she reach out to different people and expand her network?
Yeah, so as you encounter local, as you encounter people in your community, you just have to make it really easy to be found on a social network. And sometimes you actually have to ask for it. Say, hey, I'd really like you to go like us on Facebook. I mean, in this face-to-face conversation, they just told you how much they admire what you're doing or what the organization has accomplished. You say, wow, that's really great. Would you go like us on Facebook and maybe make a comment? Because if they like you on Facebook, their entire network is now going to be exposed to you. And this third-party advocate has talked about how great you are, so it makes it much more likely then that their network is also going to start to follow you or become one of your fans on Facebook. So it's kind of like a if you don't ask, you don't get thing. Make it simple. Anywhere you connect, there's always that ask involved. I want to keep, even if it's a prospective donor who, well, maybe I can't even get my foot in the door at this point, and you come into contact with them, get them to join your social network. And that way you stay in front of them on a regular basis on an ongoing amount of time. At one point when they are ready to take action, it's easier for them to contact you and do so.
That's great. Megan, does that sound doable? Do you have a specific question maybe or an example of something that you've tried that didn't work or you want to try that you can talk to Ron about? Megan?
I think that's a great suggestion. We're just really trying to build our name in Kansas City, and I think definitely just having that one-on-one contact is a great place to start.
Does the organization, do you have business cards?
Yes, we do, and we actually just started putting our social media information on the back of our business cards.
Good. I think that's going to have a pretty big impact. So not only have it there, but also point it out. When you hand that card to someone, you say, hey, I'd love for you to follow us on Facebook. Then it makes it way more, if you don't ask, you don't get. It just makes it way more likely that they're going to.
And so before we move on, I did want to share that Megan does use Constant Contact, Ron, and maybe you can give her some tips on email strategies because that still is part of social media. Email is still part of social media. Are there some strategies that maybe she can do right now?
Yeah, email is the original form of social, and more importantly, it's how you monetize other forms. So that's where you can have more of an ask because we do tolerate some promotional content via email, but almost zero via social. And I could easily spend a couple hours on best practices on email, but let me give you a couple things that I see nonprofits and other organizations do poorly often. One is they make it way too long. It's a concise form of communication. I'm not going to read your long email, no matter how great the content is. So the ideal email is going to print out on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper or smaller. Remember that more than half the people in the U.S. are now reading their email on their mobile device. So design for mobile. And make the font a little bit bigger. Maybe you just use one column. The thumb is the new mouse. So if there's something where you want them to take action and it's just text, click here to donate, my thumb probably can't even find that word. So today, that should probably be an image, a clickable image. Click here to support us. As far as delivery goes, middle of the week tends to get the best action. If it's for an event, last-minute reminders work really well. And the very most important thing in getting it opened, there's two important things. One is the from line. If they don't recognize who it's from, they won't touch it. 60% of us decide to open or not based on who it's from. And if it comes from something generic like news at or list at the organization, it's much less likely to get opened than if it comes from a real person. So something coming from Ron Cates at something.com will get opened more than anything generic, even if people have no idea who Ron Cates is. And the subject line is really important. The ideal subject line is short, 30 to 35 characters or less. That includes spaces. It should have a call to action. The ideal subject line, the big secret, is it's the one that tells exactly what's in the email. And today we're seeing a lot of people take action on email without even opening it, but just taking action on the subject line. Now, I'm a pretty serious tennis player. I'm not real good, but I am serious. In my local tennis store, they sent me one a few weeks ago. It says 40% off clearance shoes this weekend. I didn't open the email, but I was in line on Saturday. So we're finding today that about 31% of the do not opens are still taking action based on a subject line. So never clean out your do not opens, and the subject line just became more important than ever.
That's a great bit of advice. It never even dawned on me that they did the call to action just because of the title of the subject line. That's great. Thank you.
We also have, just one last thing, we have to be careful. Because subject lines are getting truncated, shortened on a mobile device, you have to make sure that if it gets shortened, will it become silly or does it still make sense? I see big companies fail here all the time. Last year from Neiman Marcus, winter fashions you can't afford to miss. In my inbox becomes winter fashions you can't afford. Now, that might be truth in advertising, but it's not the message they intended. So if your subject line is shortened, will it still make sense or does it become something very different than what you intended?
Great. Thank you so much, Ron. So now we're going to move on to our next VISTA who's joining us on the call, and this is Lonnie. And so, Lonnie, would you go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know where you're serving?
Hi, yes, I'm Lonnie Golston, and I am the Yavapai Reentry Project Coordinator. We're located in Prescott, Arizona.
Great. So now, Lonnie, your situation is a little bit different in that you have a robust social media presence. So you've already grown your community. You're very good at engaging. You've got a good following, yet you're still facing a few challenges. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your current social media outreach and the area where you're finding the most difficulty?
So currently we have a Twitter following, and we just started about 2 months ago, but we already have 50 followers, and we're growing about 5 followers every week or so. So we're happy about that. We also have a Facebook following, which we've really grown in the last year since we've been promoting it more, and it actually has a nationwide reach, which is really exciting because Yavapai County is not a place that many people are familiar with. And then we have a blog that we use for a lot of our education and advocacy piece that we do with our program. So we use all of this to really try and promote our community coaching program and recruit coaches, but you also do some outreach to our donors. However, that's really where we're struggling, is trying to get more local community coaches and local donor dollars, and that's why we were on this call today hoping to get some insight.
And before I turn it over to Ron for him to give you some examples of some things that you could do for local outreach, could you explain what a community coach is so we know exactly the type of volunteer that you're looking for?
Sure. So what our program does is we assist individuals leaving state-level correctional facilities nationwide who are returning to Yavapai County find supportive services. And a community coach is a mentor who helps them navigate the various organizations in the community who can help them with that and also provide emotional support. So the community coach is a volunteer who's going to be working one-on-one with a member of our program with navigating their reentry process.
Okay, Ron, so she has a very specific need in that she has a demographic that she needs to drill down to who can become a community coach locally that she wants to reach out to. What advice do we have for her in terms of engagement marketing, or what can she do to maybe partner with some other people locally to make sure that she can get, she's reaching the right people through her social media channels to get those local volunteers to become community coaches, or better yet, to donate?
Yeah, a couple different ways. I'll give you a couple ideas. One is that because the people in your network, the ones who are volunteers or donors, they tend to network with people like themselves. Actually asking them on the network, hey, if you've got someone else that you can recommend us to for this, either to become a coach or to become a donor, please do so. So you can do a public ask and put some pressure on them to do so. Their network is filled with people who fit the bill. Two, and this is a real life example. For a while I did all the corporate sponsorships for YMCA of the USA. And there are a lot of prospective big donors that I was really interested in, but I knew they weren't ready to take action today. So I came up to them with something that it almost looked like I was giving them a gift, but it really did serve me. So for an example, PepsiCo. I went to PepsiCo and I said, look, I don't even need any money. I just want you to put the sign-up link for our email newsletter on your website. And you get all the advantages of being related to us and helping us with cause marketing, but it's really not going to cost you a penny. Well, they get a lot more website traffic than YMCA does. So I got 85,000 new email subscribers that way, many of which became members or donors or stakeholders. So you could go to a local business, one that gets a lot of web traffic, especially a lot of local web traffic, and ask them to become a sponsor, but really it's not going to cost them any money. You just want them to be, give them the cause marketing feature of having the sign-up link for your email newsletter on their site. They'll be happy to do it. It's a nice foot in the door for something that happens later based on traffic, but they have zero commitment in dollars and time. And because of that, you'll end up with a lot of subscribers who could become donors or stakeholders or volunteers.
So Ron, if I'm hearing you correctly, I just remembered something. It's almost like back in the day when you used to go stick a flyer or ask a business owner, can you put a flyer in their window or put a table tent on their counter? You're actually now going to some of these local businesses and saying, hey, can we put a logo or a bug on your website or your blog, especially businesses that may have more traffic than you do or have a targeted audience that you're trying to get to. It's almost like when you used to go stick a flyer in the window, correct?
It is, but it's even better than that because they're really going to be a beneficiary of cause marketing. So we know if there are two products on the shelf and they're identical, except one has the pink ribbon on it and one doesn't, the one with the pink ribbon sells 8 times more. So you're really giving them this huge benefit by being associated with your cause and for free. In exchange, you're getting some exposure to their entire network so they can become very directly connected to you via email sign-up or even social sign-up if they're willing to do that as well.
Your advice is to be strategic about the people that you do the ask of.
Oh, absolutely. And this is especially great for the ones that you would really like to shoot for, but they're a bit out of range right now, a little bit too big. I just don't have the connection. This is a great foot in the door that can lead to something much bigger later on. In the case of PepsiCo, it led to a $6 million donation later on.
Lonnie, does that sound doable, or are there some other areas that maybe you might want some help with?
I think especially the sign-up link on sponsor sites is definitely doable, and then asking our coaches to reach out to individuals that they work with or that they know are definitely feasible things for us to do going forward.
Excellent.
Great. Any other challenges, or shall we move on?
No other challenges, but I was just wondering, since it sounds like these are very specific outreach mechanisms, we have a big event that's kind of more general in nature as a fundraiser, like a UV splash run. Do you think it's prudent to put a lot of resources into trying to get donors and get more people involved, or if we should really just treat it as a promotional, we're here, and then have information there if people are interested?
I would spend some time and energy trying to get other organizations or other entities to promote it for me, whether that be a business or a nonprofit.
Thank you.
The more promotional partners, the better, so see how many you can partner with.
Great advice. Partnership's the key then. All right, we're going to move on. I'm going to turn it over to Tracy.
Thank you, Danielle. So I just want to make sure that all VISTAs get this piece that Ron has been trying to convey throughout the entire presentation. And what he's talking about is this right here, this engagement marketing cycle. And so there's 2 circles taking place, and I'm going to go ahead and break these down for you. So if you look, on one side you have new or current supporters who have already come through your front door or been exposed to your organization, and that's what we see on the right-hand side. And then there are those prospective volunteers and donors that you have not met, but you want them to become aware of your organization. And those are the people that you all seem to want to target that are on the left side. So let's see how we can leverage this concept right here and apply it through your social media networks in order to get those volunteers and donors that you ultimately want. So first is the experience. You want to provide those supporters that you already have with what we're going to call a wow experience. And this is something that really just sets your organization apart, makes them go home feeling great about what they did, their work that they're doing with you. They just want to tell other people about what happened. You can do this in small or large ways, but really making sure that you're doing that personal touch so that everyone that comes through that front door, when they volunteer with your organization, they know that this was something worthwhile, their time was appreciated, and they go home feeling great about what happened that day. Once that happens, Then you can move on to the Entice. And essentially, you want them to connect with your organization, whether that is through an email list, liking you on Facebook, connect with you on LinkedIn, or following you on Twitter. So making that ask is so much easier if someone just had this great experience and you say, oh my goodness, well, before you leave, just want to make sure that we can stay in touch with you. We really appreciate all your help. Sounds simple, but so many people miss this opportunity to do this. So once someone has a great experience, you're then enticing them to stay in touch with your organization. All right, so they say, yes, of course, I'll email me whenever you want to. I love you. I'll like you on Facebook. Of course I have a Twitter account. Why not follow you? All right, you already have them hooked in. How do you engage them to make sure that it's not just that person that you already have that's connected with you, but they're expanding your network for you? As Ron mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, people are more likely to come to your organization or believe in the things that are essential to your organization if it's coming from someone that they trust or a peer in their network, not just coming from the organization itself. And so that's why this engagement piece is so important. You want to have those sort of posts that Ron mentioned earlier that lets people not only see their volunteerism in action, lets them have advice and tips on things that they may be able to do to help with the organization, all of those sort of things that makes that person that just had this great experience, decided to connect with you, want to like your post, make a comment, share it with people in their network. And once that happens, that's when you really get the social visibility that you all want in order to make connections with other people in your communities or in other businesses that can help you bring in new volunteers and new donors into the network. And essentially, you really need to make sure that all the pieces of this engagement cycle are working together. So just to go over quickly again, you're going to have a great experience for all of those people who are coming through the door. You're going to entice them to get connected to you through email and your social media platforms. You're going to have the great content, maybe using that weekly post model that Ron told you all about, that's going to engage them, sharing on their own personal networks, having a friend come with them maybe next time to have their own wow experience. And through all of this engagement, it's going to make your organization visible to people who ordinarily may not have come in contact with you from the beginning. All right, so you've heard from us. We had an opportunity to get some real-life example, but I know there are tons of questions still in the queue, or there may be something that we didn't address. So now is an opportunity for you to ask questions of us. You can always send your questions through the Q&A feature, and we also have the operator online to take calls through the call-in number. Operator?
We will now begin the question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press star 1. Please unmute your phone and record your name clearly when prompted. Your name is required to introduce your question. To withdraw your request, press star 2. One moment, please, for your first question. Your first question comes from Anna DeGusso. Your line is open.
Hi, this is Anna Gattuso in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm an AmeriCorps VISTA alum. My question has to do with this great social media platform that we use called PictoChart. PictoChart enables you to make infographics. What I'd like to be able to do through my organization is to share the newsletter that we've made on PictoChart through an email. And I was wondering if Ron's expertise might cover that area or offer any similar advice to situations such as that. Thank you.
So there'd be a couple ways to do it. One is I would create an email and have some content in it, but then link to that. So that what you create through that platform, they actually give you a website address for the one that you created, a URL. And you can actually put that into an email, like click here to read the full version or click here to see the infographic that we've created. But I wouldn't just make that the only thing in the entire email. I would also have some additional content around it so it doesn't look blank in case they decide not to do that. The other option, of course, is to actually turn what you created into like a PDF or an image and make that the entire body of your email. But that's not a best practice for this reason. Sometimes people's, the email client they use, and when I say email client, I'm talking about the software they use to read their email, like Outlook or Yahoo. Sometimes those block images until the recipient says it's okay to see them. So we don't want our entire email just to be an image. We want to have some text in there just in case they can't see images. We even allow you to put text behind your images, so if images are blocked, they can see what you wrote there. So behind your header logo, don't put the words header logo. You put your organization name so they know who this is coming from.
Is Constant Contact a platform that would enable this practice?
Yes. And you could actually probably read as well.
What we've encountered is that we like the idea of a client, a friend of United Housing opening the email and seeing the graphic right away, but we wanted to have hyperlinks to the Donate Now button, which you can't do if you just download as a PDF, and we've even embedded a YouTube video.
Yeah, so it's really easy to put videos into a Constant Contact email. Super easy. You just click on a button. And when it comes to that image that you've created, that can also be a clickable link. So the infographic you've created, they could click on it, and it could go right to a Donate Now platform or site or a place where they can actually make the donation online. All images can be a clickable link.
And does Constant Contact work with specifically the platform of PictoChart?
Yeah, we would just take that and export it as an image and put it into the email. And actually, when you call us up, we would help you do that either through our support team or through one of our coaches. We'll give you a marketing coach for free that'll help you with everything.
Oh, that sounds great. Thanks so much.
No worries.
One moment, please, for your next question. Your next question comes from Leah. Your line is open.
Hi. I'm working in a small organization in Harlem. But the problem is we're actually part of a large organization that has a really strong social following. How do we promote ourselves without kind of getting lost? A lot of times when people try to find us on Facebook or any other kind of social media, they're ended up being redirected to a large organization and we get missed.
Right. The difficulties of being a sub-brand, yes?
Yes.
So first, if possible, talk to the organization leadership to see if they can help you in some way. You know, redirect people that are interested just in what you're doing so that it comes just to you. But in the meantime, you're going to need to come up with, like a social presence, a Twitter handle, a Facebook page name that really signifies your subset. And that's what you're going to start to promote instead of the real big one. And we all have this, and I'm basically a sub-brand of Constant Contact at this point. So my Facebook page is Constant Contact Ron Cates instead of just Ron Cates or just Constant Contact. So you can accomplish the same thing. Just make sure you get the buy-in of the key people at the bigger organization first, so they're working with you instead of feeling like you're going out on your own.
Okay, thank you. So
and let them know that you want to make sure the branding stays intact. I mean, that's what they're very concerned about. That's why they typically don't let you do certain things. But if you let them know that you're very interested in having, continuity and branding and doing everything the right way, but you have this very important sub-brand to promote and actually ask them for their input, they're probably going to help you beyond what you'd expect.
Okay, thank you.
As a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, please press *1 and record your name clearly when prompted. One moment, please, for your next question.
In the meantime, are there any Q&A questions that we may want to ask?
Yes, Danielle, we have one from Madeline. So Madeline is saying Facebook has made many changes to their site recently and are moving to a sort of pay-to-play model for business or nonprofits with Facebook pages. So her nonprofit is not in a position to pay to boost every post that they make. And although Facebook is the biggest, it doesn't seem to be effective unless you already have a lot of likes. So, Ron, in the case of Madeline, how do nonprofits that are working in this sort of situation, in her case, a food bank, navigate Facebook given this new reality?
Yeah, so I'm never going to make Facebook my sole web presence. I mean, it's just one platform that I'm going to try to use to talk about what I do, and also point to my home base. And my home base is always my website or blog, website/blog. So that's always what I'm trying to promote is my home base. We'll never control Facebook. So I'm never going to put all my eggs into that basket. I'm going to simply use that platform as a tool to send people where I want them typically. And in that case, it's going to be my site. So I'm going to get people to talk about it as much as I can. The way that with their algorithm, the new algorithm, to make sure that you get seen by more people is to make sure that they engage with you. The more they engage with you, the more likely they are to see your content. So instead of 6 or 7%, it can be like 32 to 60%. So that means you have to post something. Content is king. Post something that's going to make them respond. Incite them to comment and engage with you. Or when they post something back, go ahead and comment on that comment. The more engagement you get, the more you're going to be seen, not only by them, but also by the people in their network. So use that Facebook algorithm to your advantage instead of disadvantage, and let the people who don't understand it suffer. You just create greater engagement, and you'll get seen by more people.
Thank you, Ron. We have another question. Now, this one is about LinkedIn. And so Adele is asking, what do you think is better? Are you recommending that the VISTAs use LinkedIn to create an organizational page for where they're serving, or are they supposed to be marketing their organization via their personal LinkedIn page?
Yeah, I think they should make an organizational page for their organization. And if they have a personal page, they can certainly talk about the organization and link to it, but it should be a separate presence on LinkedIn for the organization itself.
Makes perfect sense. As a follow-up, talking again about LinkedIn, Elizabeth is saying, in order to do a volunteer posting on LinkedIn, you have to pay for that post. And so what are some ways, similar to trying to get around Facebook making you pay for posts, how can you be productive on LinkedIn and not have to pay for volunteer postings?
Yeah, just in your regular verbiage of something you post, in informational content, you can include a reference to, by the way, we're looking for volunteers, and you can include a link to that or a phone number so they can contact you that way. If you're using the inexpensive, the higher level of LinkedIn service that only costs a few dollars a month to where people can direct message you or email you directly from LinkedIn, and that costs $10 a month, they could actually directly contact you that way if they want to volunteer, and that way you could include that link at a low price, not have to pay for advertising or a separate listing.
All right. Operator, do we have any more questions in queue?
Your next question comes from Tom Larson. Your line is open.
Hi.
Hi, Tom. Where are you?
I am at Oakland, California. I work for a small nonprofit called Wardrobe for Opportunity. So we are about to start our mid-year appeal, and we want to do stuff on Facebook requesting money. And I was wondering, what's the best way to openly ask on Facebook? Could you give us money because it's halfway through the year, and how often can you ask?
Yeah, so if out of the blue you come out with an ask when you haven't had a lot of educational content there first, it's probably not going to go very far. I mean, first you have to establish a bit of a relationship and some trust. That means, a lot of educational content over a period of months before I would do an ask. Now, if it just has to happen, then I would include the two together. Educational content. And these are the sort of things we do and accomplish. If you're a donor, this is what your money does. And by the way, to become a donor, you click here. So, I mean, the biggest change in donations today or in nonprofit is that people want to know exactly, measurable results. They want to know what their dollar accomplishes. So whether it's a before and after change or something physical that you can point to, if you can quantify the results and let them know that that's what their money accomplishes, you're way more likely to get help.
Thanks.
Measurable outcome. And when I went to go help the YMCA, they weren't very good at that, to be candid. They just assumed the programs they did had a great impact. So one of the big changes I made was, we would do, personality profiles, self-esteem on kids before they went through a program, and then afterwards, so we could say, hey, this self self-esteem measurement went up by 82% after this program. That's the sort of impact your dollar has. That's what donors want to know. They want to know that the organization's efficient, and they want to know that their dollar is going to have an outcome, and they want to know what that outcome is. What does my dollar buy in results? If you're really good at communicating that, you're going to have great results.
Hey, Ron, I'm going to give you a twofer. One is from James, who's asking, when reposting someone else's content, do you repackage it? And the second one we hear quite a bit, and that's from Mary Lynn, and she wants to know if you have to get consent for photos when out in public. And then specifically, I'd like to add, because this conversation was happening in the chat, what about taking photos of children? And we do want to be very careful about that. So that's the twofer.
So although it's not illegal, I would be very sensitive to do that. It definitely, if I was using a child, I would have the written permission of a parent. Any photo taken in public, you're allowed to share on a social network. But what you want to do is you want the people in the photo to be talking about you on their social network. So I would make sure they knew about it. I would tag them in the photo. That way they're going to see it. They won't be surprised about it. But they're going to tell all their friends about it, and all their friends in the entire network are going to see it. People love to show that their picture was taken and it's on this site. Hey, I was at this fundraiser and my picture got taken, and you can find me on Facebook. So I would definitely let everybody, I would inform them that we're taking the pictures and posting them. That way they're going to go promote it on their own. Now, if it's for pure commercial use, then you do need permission. So if you're using it specifically for a fundraiser or obtain donations, it becomes a different story. And you do need written permission from them in that case to use their photo.
Great. And Yvette is asking, how beneficial are paid ads on Facebook and Twitter?
Yeah, so far, well, on Twitter, not so much so far, but on Facebook, we're seeing pretty good return on investment on the ads. They're still pretty low cost. They can be quite targeted. The trick is they're very limited in the number of characters, so you have to get your message across very quickly in a very concise, way, a very concise call to action. So it's kind of like with an email subject line. You have to say exactly what this is about, exactly what you want, and you have to do it in very few characters. But we are seeing, I think it's something worth experimenting with, because you can experiment with a very limited budget, see what kind of impact you have. And if it's good, then you can expand. If you don't get great results, then you can abandon it for now. It's kind of a no-risk thing. You're only going to spend as much as you want to.
Okay, and Michael wants to know, are there any great social media avenues to develop an ask portion for donations and such? There's some great social media outlets out there, like the Kickstarters and so forth, but is there any one tool that you might recommend, Ron, if there's going to be an ask for donations?
Yeah, so right now there are a bunch of those, and no one has really taken the lead. So if you're to Google that, a nonprofit social site or nonprofit social donation site, you're going to see the top 5, and right now they're all pretty even. So it'd be hard to recommend one over the other.
Got it. Anything else, Tracy, that needs to be asked before we move on?
And just one last question that I saw a couple of times. Ron, you mentioned that it's great to share the love and curate and repost and retweet. Do you need to add anything additional to those postings when you're sharing what others have come up with, or should you just push retweet and let it go?
It depends. And a lot of it depends on how much space you have. If it's Twitter, you might not have enough characters left to really say much about it. But if you can comment on it and add some of your own individual personality to it, that improves it. That improves the reach of it, and that improves the feel of it. But in some cases with Twitter, pretty much you're not going to have any more characters, and you can't add much. It would be something really brief, like really like this, and then that's the introduction to the tweet that you're retweeting.
And what about on Facebook? Often people share content on the wall of a particular page. So for those VISTAs who are managing their organization's page, should they repost? Can you just repost? We often do, and we'll give credit to the organization that sent us the photo or sent us the blog post. But what's your rule of thumb for reposting on Facebook?
Same thing. More than half the content is stuff you found and shared. It's not original content. So that's what the site's for. It's to share. And anyone posting there is given automatic public license for their content to be shared. So there are no legal issues to be worried about. I think as a best practice, you always attribute it to where it came from. I think that makes you look better, and it also makes them feel better about providing content to you.
How are we doing on time, Tracy? Are we coming to an end?
Yes, we are coming to an end, but before we completely end today's webinar, I just want to say thank you again, Ron, for sharing your expertise with the VISTAS, and thank you, VISTAS, for being so engaged and giving us some great questions and comments to think about to really make this presentation something that can be useful not just for those who are on live, but for those who are having to log in later for our webinars on demand. You will see in a few moments an evaluation survey come up on your screen. We just ask that you take a minute or two to share your feedback. We are always interested in seeing what went well from this presentation, other ideas you may have for future webinars, and any other resources that we may be able to create to help you be even more successful throughout your VISTA year.
Thank you all for letting me do this. I really had a blast. I mean, I love what you do, and any way I can help you do it better, I'm all over it. So just let me know.
Thank you, Ron. We really appreciate it. And lastly, this will not be the last webinar, so we just want to make sure that you're tuned in for some upcoming presentations. On July 10th, we have what's called Writing with Purpose, Precision, and Pizzazz, something I'm sure even Ron could give us a few more tips about. So we just want to thank you again for your participation today, and tune in again on July 10th. Before you leave, take an opportunity to fill out that survey for us.